Unifemi. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of the Thinking Reimagined podcast. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Let's talk about positive body image. When you look into the mirror, what do you see? Do you like what you see? I remember growing up.
I love
I used
what
to be
I
very
see.
skinny. Oh, you love what you see, Dr. Amma. Okay.
I
Um,
love what I see.
I'm told that when the clothes are off, Mr. Boyo, we all do not look exactly like we look with the clothes on. Do you agree?
Well, yes, because some of us see what we want to see, and then some of
Uh-huh.
us look at the reality, and then some are totally like don't even look. So I think it's a matter of your mindset. What you see is your perception of what you look at. And then some mirrors are, not to use the word fat, but some mirrors are fat mirrors. So when you look in the mirror too, don't judge yourself by what you see, because some mirrors make you look larger than or slimmer. Illusions.
Okay. So
It's interesting that, so sorry, go ahead, Nifemi.
No, go ahead, Dr. Amma.
It's interesting that he should start with the idea of perception because, there are many angles of how to look at body image. Perception is the one that people usually go to, which is how do you see yourself? But there's also how you feel about yourself, which is the affective, and that in itself changes how you interact with yourself and others, or how you relate, or the way you relate to others and to your body, which can affect your behavior. And of course, the cognitive. What are your thoughts? What are those thoughts about yourself? In psychology, we always talk about self-esteem under three branches. As self-esteem as to how you perceive yourself, how you see yourself, how you think people see you, and how people see you. So literally, you have to think about the whole umbrella when you're talking about body image. But as I said earlier, whilst our clothes are coverings for our bodies, how we feel about our bodies internally comes from us. But we have to think about the external influences that we feel or that are implied, whether it's societal or familial. So body image is important.
It's a little bit difficult these days. I like what Mr. Boyo said about, what you see, because we've been seeing a lot on Instagram. You see what the world perceives to be beauty. Every guy is hitting the gym these days, and then you see the biceps and the triceps, and then you look into your mirror, it's your tummy that is staring back at you. I used to be very skinny, and I usually I grew up desiring to add a little bit more flesh. So when I got married, I told my wife that you have a lot of work to do, 7 years after, my tummy is staring right back at me. And then I compare my tummy with that of my wife's, who has had 2 children. I'm like, guy, you're not pregnant yet. Why is your tummy this big? But let's bring in our special guest. Karina Karui is joining us for the first time on this podcast. She hosts the body image workshops, and she's invested in conversations on women's wellness. Karina, how do I pronounce this? Is this air wellness?
It's area wellness. So not too far off, but area wellness. Yes.
Area wellness. So Karina runs area wellness, under which she hosts body image workshops at schools and offices. Welcome on board, Karina. Thank you for joining us on this one.
Thank you.
And Karina, can I just ask Karina, what does ERE stand for? What does it mean? I mean, is there something to that name, that nomenclature?
Yes, so it actually comes from 3 sources. So the word ERE in Nimbe from Bayelsa State translates loosely to women folk, and it's a play on my mom's name, which is Erem, and my grandma's, which is Erefaga. So it's paying homage to the woman who raised me, and it just in Nimbe language from Bayelsa State.
Wow.
Beautiful. Wow.
Interesting.
There you go. Yes, I like it. Homage to the women.
Thank you.
You
I
know
stopped.
that body image issues usually affect women more than men, although now it's almost balanced because, again, as you mentioned, there's social media and what people project. But I am curious to see what Karina has to say about body image to get us started.
100%. And I think what has been discussed earlier really did touch on it, in the sense that it's an umbrella under which how we see ourselves, how others see us, and now how social media really affects our relationship with our bodies, because there seems to be so much pressure to look a certain way. And it's interesting to observe the fact that beauty standards have changed over the years, and they continue to change, of course. Right now, the standard for women is, the curvy, hourglass, slashed, small waist, big hips. However, before it used to be, a very slender, slim model, what people would call skinny. Before that, it was, if you are very big and plump, it shows that you are doing very well and you're prosperous. So it's interesting how the body standards change, hence the body image, and our discussions on it change over years as well.
And Karina, I wanted to add to that it's also cultural, because in every culture, the standards, the perceived standards of beauty, or the proper the image you should have, body image, really is affected by the culture in which you are raised, or the culture in which you reside. And I do think we should also bring that factor into play.
Definitely, I completely agree. In the African context, the Nigerian context, we even have discussions on different tribes and different behaviors towards body image. So, for example, fattening rooms, the Calabar culture, and histories of that. They definitely do come into play, in terms of, if you're on the slimmer side, there are a lot of comments of, oh, why aren't you eating? Why are you so slim? Why are you so skinny? If you're on the bigger side, there might be comments of, oh, you're eating too much, you shouldn't be fat, you should watch it, So it's definitely a very cultural conversation as well.
Yeah.
A lot of that is also changing. Just like you said, Karina, growing up, sexy used to be slender, and thin, all of those beauty models. But now a lot is changing. Now you need some curves to be sexy, if you know what I'm talking about. Some people even go to the extent of adding some flesh to those areas of their bodies. But Mr. Boyu, talk to us. Have you ever had an experience growing up, or even right now, about because usually people will say the confidence should come from inside out, but there's a lot that also depend on the reaction you get from the outside. If you're wearing a good cologne, for instance, someone says you look good, there's a little good feeling that you have. Someone says, oh, that clothes looks good on you, or you speak well. There's a little impact that these good comments bring to you. And it's the same thing you get when someone makes you feel that perhaps you look too big, or you're too tiny. Have you had any experience in that regard before, Mr. Boyle?
Well, actually, recently I've had some experience, because I started going back to the gym after a year of an injured arm. So kind of packed on a few pounds and kind of looked different. But I wasn't ashamed of my physique, because sometimes you're skinny, sometimes you're chubby. It doesn't matter as long as you're alive and breathing. But I started getting comments like, oh, look at your tummy, your love handles, you're getting chubby, you're not training properly, you're getting slow and this. And I was like, come on, I'm doing the best I can for myself at this time of my life. So it doesn't bother me, but I spoke about it because I know people that go through this body shaming, and it gets to them. To me, I'm confident in my skin and I'm happy the way I look. I'm happy to be alive. So I don't care if I'm fat or skinny or smell good today or whatever. Do you understand? And then also when you're talking about social media, we can't use social media as a measure, because have you heard of filters? body shaping belts, Photoshop. So what you see on social media is an illusion. Trust me, I can make myself look light skinned with a slim, skinny face. I can color my hair and change the way I look. So if you use social media as a measure of what you think you should look like, then you're just wasting your time and wasting your emotions, and you're living you're looking at a fake life, so to speak. But in terms of body shaming and all that, people will always talk. But if you're confident in yourself and you look good and you feel good and you're healthy and you're breathing, I don't care about people's opinions, because come to the basic, people that usually give you negative comments insecure and also have their own issues. So they use that as a defense mechanism, or that's what they're used to. I don't know if I'm babbling, but
no, you're not. No,
okay.
you're not.
So
I think it all
Well,
boils down to what we, sorry, Dr. Amma, I think it all boils down to what we consider to be the standard of beauty in the society or in the community where we work and do business. So I stumbled on one of Karina's conversation where she was talking about her Barbie's story. Growing up, she would compare herself with the dolls that she was playing with. And that's, for instance, you see people carrying beards, and somehow in your mind it looks good, and then you're thinking that you're not really looking young and trendy if you don't have beards. So if your beards are not well trimmed and things like that, So Dr. Amma, I'd like you to just speak to, this idea of getting confidence from inside out is key. However, it's also very challenging in this age and time where you see a lot, unlike before, when, before social media, what you see is really limited.
And for me, I think we should start with the body. What is the body? It's the encasement that holds all of the internal organs that we have. And all of us are different. I am unique. Nobody else looks like me. There might be somebody who somewhat resembles me, but it's not me. And each of us is given the body that we're born with, which is the body that we live with until we transition. And that body is going to age. It's going to change. So you can have one type of body when you're 5 years old, as opposed to another when you're a teenager, when the hormones come in, as opposed to, when you've given birth to children, or menopause or perimenopause and aging. But what doesn't change is the mind. The mind doesn't change. The body can change, but the mind doesn't change. And that is where the focus should be, is on the mind, because we have to embrace that as we grow, as we age, and we age every single minute and every single day and every single year, our bodies are going to change based on the environment in which we live, based on what we're going on through our lives. If you're stressed, you're going to produce extra cortisol. That hormone is going to make you get bloated. That hormone is going to give you belly fat. But if you reduce the stress, you're likely to lose the body fat, and that region of your body would disappear. So there are things that you can do to modify your body. I've always said to people that when you exercise, we tend to think of exercise as keeping the body going. Yes and no. What you're really doing is keeping your mind and your brain going. And if you can keep your mind and your brain going, whatever happens with the body does not affect how you perceive yourself, how you relate to others, and how you think of yourself, because you recognize that the external, which is the body, is going to change. Is the reason why you can change your clothing and look different, whether you're wearing a dress, trousers, skirt, whatever it is that you wish to wear. That does not change the mind. So one of the big things we have to do is embrace the different body shapes. We shouldn't be setting a standard for beauty. We should be accepting each other as we present ourselves, because there is no way that you should be allocating beautiful, more attractive. These are artificial parameters that we're setting that are not within the norm of how we accept ourselves. Diversity in body is critical. And diversity in body is evident every single day. Social media and all of these cosmetic surgeons and all the other packaging does not change the mind. And so I really think that what we need to start from a very young age is encourage our children as they shift into adolescence, when their body changes into puberty and further on, to really enhance their mind so that when they look at themselves in the mirror, they see who they really are, not the body. The body is just a physical encasement. So I am as happy with my body as I was when I was a few decades younger, as I will be a few decades older, because I'm not concerned about the encasement. I keep it in good condition. I eat properly. I exercise. But more importantly, I keep a positive mind, recognizing that the body will change. And that is very critical. How you perceive yourself, how you think of yourself, how you present yourself, how you treat your body is very important. And body image sometimes really boils down to how do you treat yourself? Because if you treat yourself as the vessel of knowledge and the goddess that you are, then you will always feel good, regardless of what you're wearing. You can wear a piece of rag and walk into a room and have presence. That's not from your body. That's internal from who you are. And people will interface with you based on what you present, not on the clothing. It's not about your clothing. It's not about the external. That's why you have different people in the world. Some of the nicest people in the world have physical attributes that will not be appealing to others. But that personality, that mind is what draws us. If you marry someone because of their physical attributes, you're going to be disappointed very quickly because they do change, but their mind doesn't.
Yes, not many of us have placed a premium on these other attributes that you're talking about. People still get married based on looks. People still, do business and, make relationships based on what they see and what is perceived beautiful. Perhaps Karina can speak to us about. Yes, perhaps Karina can speak to us from a place of experience. Yes, Mr. Boyo, you want to say something?
Go ahead, Mr. Boyo.
Yeah, I said I agree with Dr. Arma because it's not about the clothing or what you wear or if you're skinny or fat. It's about the inside. It's about you, your confidence, because your body image positivity comes from confidence, from what you exude. Like today, I'm wearing a t-shirt and sweats, and I look like beep beep. I'll bleep the word, but I'm out and people are saying hello to me and calling me, like in Nigeria, chairman. I was like, I look like crap, but because I'm confident about the way I look and what I'm wearing, I mean, I'm not the most handsome looking guy or the most best dressed, but I'm out, I'm enjoying my life, I'm enjoying myself. I don't look scared or stressed, and I'm walking with confidence. And I feel like for my age and for today, I'm okay. So that excuse, and people are like saying hello to me and talking to me because I exude that confidence. I'm not saying I'm the most positive person because I do have my days, but if you exude from the inside, the radiation, the radiance, people are going to buy into that. And to me, that's what a good body positive image or whatever you want to tell me is about. It's not what you're wearing. You can wear the most expensive things and still look like crap, and they're still going to look down on you. So it comes from the inside.
Absolutely. After all, the body is only housing the spirit that has a soul, and a lot of emphasis has to be placed on these other crucial things. Karina, you're leading a movement that is redefining women's relationship with their bodies. So, Dr. Amma mentioned earlier that the female folks seem to be more concerned with these things, and particularly seeing how radical their bodies change over the years, particularly for those who get pregnant and raise children, and things like that. Talk to us about, because you have walked in those shoes before. How did you grow this confidence that Dr. Amma and Mr. Boyo is talking about?
Like you mentioned earlier, Era was born from personal experience. Growing up as a teenager, I had an eating disorder called bulimia, which means that you eat food. So sometimes you binge, which means that you eat a lot of food until you're super full, and then you purge, meaning that you make yourself vomit the food back up. So I struggled with that for 8 years, from when I was about, as crazy as it sounds, when I was about 11 or 12, up until when I was in university, at the beginning of university. And I think it's easy for us now to talk about being confident in your body, but it's also very important for us to note that, and I'm sure Dr. Amma can also confirm this, but at that age, when you're a teenager and adolescent, you're very impressionable. It's very easy for you to hear, see something, and think, that's how I should be. And to internalize that and then begin to think, oh, something is wrong with me because I'm not expressed, that it's really founded on vulnerability. So a lot of us tell our stories. So for example, I'm very open with my story. I talk about it in depth at workshops, on podcasts, and such. And just opening up that door for vulnerability, being like, it's not an overnight journey. It happens over time. And something I also really stress from a comfort with yourself. It comes from a comfort with yourself. It comes like Dr. Amma mentioned, an understanding of who you are and really getting to know yourself. So really being able to work on your mind. In terms of the comfort with yourself, it takes time. This is what we stress, especially to kids at schools. It takes time, and it really is strengthened by focusing on the positive. So for example, we might not like our bodies overnight. We might not like everything about our bodies in one day. But focusing on, okay, what do I actually like? What am I grateful for? Focusing on the functionality of your body. My body moves, my body works properly. I might not like my legs, but they carry me around. So really breaking things down to each body part, to each aspect of our bodies, and not just seeing it as sometimes what seems to be quite overwhelming of the whole, be confident about the whole of yourself, love the whole of yourself, accept the whole of yourself. It takes time. So it's really exciting to see us breaking down within our communities. And then it's exciting to see how people are able to tell their stories and others also benefit from those stories. So with someone else's vulnerability, you're able to gain strength and the assurance that, okay, I will get there. It's a day by day thing. We're able to share tips on what helps, very practical, very realistic, unfiltered tips of what helps. And we're also able to work with therapists, psychologists, who are able to give that support from the professional point of view as well. So it's been a really interesting and very refreshing journey. I think it's a conversation that needs to happen more vulnerably, just generally in our spaces.
I like what you said about seeing the body, taking one part, seeing other things about you that are good and placing a lot of emphasis on it. And that's very key because I also think that for many, growing up, it's also a function of those that they are close to, and some are not just quite lucky to have people who can see the other side of them. They're always talking down at them, calling them names, talking about what is not what they think is not good about them, and all of these words over the years have a way of just dampening a soul and perforating a person's self-esteem. So how do we speak to those individuals who perhaps have been in verbally abusive relationships where their partners is always body shaming them, talking down on them, and making them feel that there's really nothing good about them just because of the way they appear, that this other person doesn't see to be beautiful?
Nifemi, I want to start by saying that it all starts with parents. Parents need to start to understand and accept their children as they are. They need to be careful of the language that they use when describing their children, or the languages that they use when they're speaking to their children. They are the first people to praise or to identify the things about children that they should change. Parents do it unknowingly. very often without recognizing it. So it's important for parents to be mindful of the language. They should be mindful of the things that they're exposing their children to. They should be mindful of even how they are describing themselves. So a parent who feels that she is fat, or her legs are not good, or her arms are too big, you implicitly transfer that to your child, who now begins to judge his or herself based on what you have said. If we come to recognize the body for what it is, for the functionality of it, and we are grateful for the functionality that it provides, yes, then you are less likely to criticize your body and focus on your mind. So much attention is placed on girls being pretty, girls being beautiful, girls dressing in a certain way, girls recognizing that they have to attract men. No, they don't. You don't need to attract any man. The person just needs to accept you for who you are, the same way that you accept them for who they are. But that kind of unhealthy pressure causes young women in particular, and some boys now, to deal with eating disorders, which is a form of poor body image, body dysphoria. So you start dealing with bulimia. And Karina, thank you for being bold enough to speak about that. Anorexia. You're trying to mold your body into what you perceive, what you've been told, what you see as the mark of beauty, right? And when you don't fit into that, then you get this low self-esteem, low confidence, and you begin to want to modify your body as a way of trying to achieve something that is not naturally you. And so you modify it. We need to also get those in the media, those that are role models, to speak about positive body image. They're not doing it. Instead, they're showing off the things that they're doing to modify their bodies, which is not available to others. And then they start trying to modify their bodies in some way or the other to match what is being visually presented. So self-esteem is important. Self-confidence is important. Less judgment on others is critical. The person is heavy, and I don't use words like thin and fat. You're on the heavier side. You're on the petite side. Right? But those kinds of language allow people to recognize that we're different. We're on a spectrum. This thing about color, your complexion, for heaven's sakes, can we let go of that? It doesn't define you. It's just a way of describing you so that you can be identified, but it's not who you are. So I do think it starts with parents. And schools also have to play a role. I'm not a fan of beauty pageants. I'm not a fan of some of the things that people do that begin to label somebody as beautiful, fine, ugly, fat. We have to change the language. And by that way, we will change the mindset and begin to accept that every single person is different. Now, in terms of a partner who puts you down, that is unhealthy. Very unhealthy, and causes great trauma. And unfortunately, when people get married, especially if they marry a physical image, and that image changes, and you don't recognize that as that image is changing, even you, the criticizer, you're changing. Look at your photograph when you got married and who you are today. There are changes there. So if one spouse can accept that change, then why can't the other? Why put a woman down because she's gained weight whilst during pregnancy and force her to get rid of that weight because you want a particular image? Why do women put that burden on themselves? It is a burden, and it's very traumatic. So I do believe that if your partner feels that way about you, your partner should probably stop and have a look at him or herself. Say, well, haven't you changed as well? Because our bodies are changing. I don't think I look the same as I did a year ago, 6 months ago, 5 years ago. But the person within this body is the same. I have not changed. I don't think so. But if I have, I would like someone to tell me. And that should be the focus.
That's right.
Oh, Nifemi, you're laughing. Have I changed?
No. You haven't at all. How didn't we say that? Didn't we all agree that you are looking stunningly beautiful on this
There
podcast? So, Mr. Boyo, I also think that a lot of this pressure that women face come from the man or via men. So, after my wife put to bed twice, I noticed that the flat tummy that I used to trip for, just went away, and then I couldn't see it again. And, in my mind, I started nursing, I started thinking, as I started having thoughts like, is it that she's not, working out enough? Is it that she's not doing enough to get her body back? But at some point, this is what broke me. You know, the other day we were in front of the mirror, both of us, and I found out that my tummy was competing with that tummy. So I just got some wisdom that if me that I've never been pregnant for once is still battling with this tummy, it will be very insensitive, of me to demand of that of her. And I like what Dr. Hammer said about the fact that we're not what we look like. If you live long enough, you will know that people are not exactly what they look like. You can find some beautiful people who have nasty character who can kill you. But how do we begin to ensure that men, even though some men are still even battling with their own body size and body colors? I know of men who bleach their skin and things like that. Well, how do you think men can be there for their woman and let them know that, see, you don't need to do a surgery to fix this? I think you'll find the way you are.
Okay, I'm going to
It's
talk in some different ways. First of all, I think women are more competitive and more critical of each other than men are. Because I say this, I don't want anybody to jump down my throat, but I say this because when women see each other, they might compliment each other, but they're going to say, oh, she's bigger than me, or her makeup is worse than mine. Or I think women are more competitive than men. Men are critical, yeah, but I think the women tend to be more competitive with each other. And then secondly, I don't know why women lose weight to get in that wedding dress and change the way they look. And then after the wedding, what happens? You go back to your normal size. So this illusion to look a certain way. Why not just be yourself? If you're slim,
Exactly.
chubby, or whatever, just be yourself. When you change yourself, that is where all those things stem from. And any man that thinks his wife, after having babies, is going to have a flat tummy, that's just silly, because men change just as much as women. I myself, I'm growing like man boobs and big tummy and all that. So the women too. If your husband says, oh, you're getting chubby, tell him he's getting chubby too. Fight back. Don't just sit there and take it and be like a doormat. Oh, I'm getting, so what? Just be yourself. If you're confident, trust me, your husband is going to love you the way you are. But if he tells you you're getting chubby and then you go start killing yourself to diet or feel depressed, then you need to build up, like Dr. Thomas said, you need to build up from the inside. If you're strong in your will and you're confident enough, that beauty is going to exude. It's going to come out, and he's going to love you the way you look and the way you are. Not saying there are not bad men out there that are abusive, but it's their problem. They have an issue, not you. So talking about abuse and body shaming, that's another realm, because most people that do that often have their own issues and they're manifesting and taking it out on you. But if you build up your mindset to feel comfortable and happy and the way you are, then if someone abuses you, I say fight back.
Can I just make a comment? Mr. Boyer used the word competitive. I don't know that women are competitive when they dress. It's comparative. They compare. Being comparative is different from being competitive. And it's when you start comparing yourself to others that body dysphoria comes into place, is because you start to question your body or how you wear something or how somebody else is wearing it. And that is where the issue lies, because you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't compare yourself with someone else. That is not necessary. That's where the body Dysphoria, that's where it begins, really, is when you're being compared, when parents compare two children. Oh, yeah, this one looks more like me and that one looks more like the other, or takes that after the grandmother. And in the meantime, they don't have good feelings for that grandmother. And they're
Yes.
going to transfer those negative feelings about the grandmother onto their child who looks like the grandmother. And then the child knows that you don't like the grandmother. And so they're beginning to wonder if you don't like it. It's a cycle, and you just need to change it. But
Yes.
I really believe positive body image from a young age is incredibly critical for
And
confidence, for
this,
self-esteem, and everything else.
you're absolutely right. And you touched on something, this color thing. Oh, my baby came out dark. So what? It's a beautiful baby. Do you know people bleach their babies now? I
I'm
mean,
telling you, I've
what
heard of
the,
that too.
it's
What?
Yes, I've
crazy.
heard of that as well. It's crazy.
Yes,
What?
yes.
Crazy.
You don't know?
People do that.
No,
They do.
People do. Karina,
that's terrible.
what do you say to someone who brings that negative vibe or that negative comment about your size? How do you respond to them? Do you just look the other way and move on? How do you deal with
Hmm.
situations like that?
So this is a skill that I've had to learn to perfect over the years because I think we've touched on this quite a bit, but during puberty, I gained weight, which is when I began experiencing the issues with the eating disorder. And even when I lost, so for example, right now, I'm a UK size 18-20, depending on the item of clothing. At the worst of the eating disorder, I was a UK size 8-10. So it's a drastic difference. I'm lucky I've been able to recover and put the weight back on. I'm very happy now. But the thing is, people would always make these comments, regardless of what size I was. And I became very conscious. I had to learn how to, one, set boundaries, and two, to an extent, kind of talk back. And I think in our culture, of course, respect is a very big thing. But I now try to educate people on the effects of their words on kids. Because calling someone Orobo or like that, it really does have a great influence on them. So, for example, let's say I go back home to Port Harcourt. My mom, her family lives in Port Harcourt. I don't see people in Port Harcourt very often. So obviously, I've come back after a year or two. My body has definitely changed. Something has changed. And it's the first thing they say when someone walks in. Look at your cheeks. You gained so much weight. I've learned that exuding the confidence that I've worked to build up kind of destabilizes people and makes them check themselves. So someone says, "Oh my goodness, you gained weight. You're so big," and I say, "No, but I look good. I know I look good. I look good regardless." And to them, it's kind of a shock of like, they don't know what to say back, and they have to realize they have to check themselves because saying things like that can affect people. Or sometimes I say, "I don't want to talk about this," or that's not a nice comment. If I'm able to actually engage in a conversation with them, if they're open to having it, I ask them if someone said exactly the same thing you said to me to you, you wouldn't like it. Some pushback. I say, "Yeah, but it's true. I'm just saying." It's like, yes, but you don't have to say that. You can ask me how I'm doing. You can ask me about my recent achievements. You can ask me about so many other things. You don't have to focus on how I look. Sometimes it's complete
Absolutely.
strangers. I had a stranger tell me, I was at a restaurant, complete stranger. I literally had not said a word to him. And he said, "Oh, you're doing really well." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I goes, "Oh, for someone your size, your stomach is really flat. Well done." And I looked
Mm.
at him and I was like, why? What? Why would you, like, how would that even come into your mind to say to a complete stranger? So in instance, I'm just like, what, sometimes it's not even worth it. Sometimes you walk away because you have to pick your battles. I'm never going to see him again. I have to be able to build up tough skin to reflect some of these comments. But it depends on the situation. I've had to really work on it. And of course, therapy has helped as well, how to put up these boundaries because I am protecting the years of building up a positive body image and healing from the eating disorder that I've had to put in, to get here right now.
Let me stay with you for a minute, Karina. I like us
Yeah.
to attempt to balance this conversation and begin to draw the line. So there are times when indiscipline and carelessness can now begin to affect your appearance and even threaten your health and well-being. So I
Yeah.
found it that because I work late into the night, I will ask my wife, please do that poundo before I come. And I'm coming as late as 11:30 p.m. And I will sit down and eat a full bowl of poundo, load it with a lot of meat. And then I found out recently that's where the tummy is coming from. And these things can even, and I like what you're doing. It has to do with health and wellness. So how do we begin to draw the line to begin to deal with issues of habits, and then, and also watch out for excesses that might now begin to tamper with our health?
Yes, and I'm really happy you brought that up because it's a very important conversation. I think sometimes with the body positivity movement, we try to hush hush about health and wellness, and we have to be realistic with ourselves, and balance between, okay, yes, fat phobia, negative body image, but also health. Something that I always touch on is how comfortable are you in your body? We have to be honest with ourselves. There are times when I've gained weight and I'm physically uncomfortable. I'm struggling to walk up the stairs. I'm panting more than I'm just not as active. I'm eating whatever I want. My digestion is messed up. So one, looking at how comfortable we are in our bodies realistically, honestly with ourselves. Two, looking at other measures of health. So beyond your size and your weight, which are also very important, very, very important telltales. But looking at, okay, my flexibility, my stamina, my digestion, are these things dropping? I think that's a good way of watching our wellness and our health while staying body positive. It's important that we note that it is possible to want to change your body. Let's say you want to increase how much you work out or eat more vegetables and fruits while still being able to accept your body and have that healthy relationship. You don't have to do it from a place of hatred and fear of fat. And lastly, on the other end, because I like to talk about how we talk to other people. Let's say you have a family member or a loved one who you are concerned about because they are gaining weight and they're not as active, and their health is physically dropping. You can feasibly see it dropping. There are ways to have these conversations from a place of kindness and compassion and grace, as opposed to shaming people and being quite cruel with our words. I think it's more effective to tell someone, okay, let's talk about what you can do. Are you happy in your body? Do you want to exercise more? I can go on walks with you every single evening, as opposed to being, look at what you're eating. How can you do this every single day? It's more effective, to come from a place of compassion while still being honest with ourselves and with others, I think.
Wow.
I think it's well said. I mean, you do have to have compassion for yourself. I always say to people, you must have compassion and empathy for yourself before you can have it for somebody else. You can eat what you want to eat, Nifemi. It's just a matter of changing your body psychotic rhythm, and as well as not eat. If you eat late at night at 11, you literally have to stay awake for 3 hours for the food to digest. It's when you eat and go to bed almost immediately without your body digesting that food that you take the energy that your body would use to digest the food when it should be at your brain. It's now focused here, but it's sluggish because you're not active. You're in bed, you're lying down, and that also adds weight. So if you change, you can eat what you want, but you have to change the pattern and you will not gain the weight. I promise you. You can still have whatever it is you have at 11 o'clock, but you've got to be willing to stay up much longer for the body to digest it. And you have to be active. And that comes from who you are, not focused on your body, but focused on your well-being and your health.
Mr. Boyo, we're going now. Let me have your final comments on this conversation.
Okay. Well, I have questions. What is the measure of beauty? What is the measure of a good body? What is the measure of how you feel? It all boils down to you as a person. If you feel like you're in good shape, you look good, you're healthy, you're breathing, you're alive, that's all that matters. No matter how you look or what you wear, as long as you're healthy, like Irene, I think, was saying, as long as you're healthy, that's what is important. Who wants to look at a beautiful dead person? Who wants to look at a confident dead person? It doesn't matter. As long as you're alive and you feel good about yourself, that is the most important thing.
Wow. Well said, Mr. Boyo. Karina, I'd like to have your final comments
Sorry,
on this
Karina.
conversation.
Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry.
My name goes to the ringer quite a bit. That's fine. No, I'm really happy we had this conversation. And I think my final comment would just be to focus on comfort with your body, which translates to confidence. And at the center of it, well-being. Because like Mr. Boyer rightly said, there's no point being a confident person if you're not breathing and living well, living fully. And that's the center of body positivity and body image, really taking care of ourselves and really being compassionate with ourselves, like Mr. Anna stressed on, which I love. Very important. You can't be compassionate to others if you're not compassionate with yourself. Very, very true.
Karina, please feel free to put your camera back on. I just got your message. I like what you said about asking yourself sincere questions. Are you comfortable in your skin? There are times when I become so heavy that I have labored breathing. You can tell that your mobility is already impaired. You need to pay attention to these things and also be sincere to yourself and be a little bit more disciplined. Dr. Amma, I'd love to hear from you before we go.
Well, you know me, my thing is it comes from within. Who you are, how your body is, how you present your body starts from within. So focus on who you are at the core, from your soul, your mind, and that is what people see. The body is just the encasement that you're dragging around. What people see, what people interact with is that part of you that is internal in the core at the deepest level. And that is where your attention should be. And when your attention is there, I promise you, not only will your body function better, you will function with grace and gratitude and dignity, and you will have compassion and empathy for yourself and others, and you will have no reason to compare yourself to any other or to doubt your value or the value of the body that you have been gifted with.
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry, I want to add one last thing. Nife, of the 150 million times I've seen you, I have never, ever in my life thought that you have a big tummy. So I don't know where that's coming from. That is your perception.
Because you haven't seen me. You haven't seen me without my shirt on.
So that's what we're saying, is your perception. I have never thought of you in that way. And Karina, you look beautiful the way you are. You're gorgeous and you're confident and you exude confidence.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that Karina sounds like she's been on this podcast forever. So we're hoping that you would join us for subsequent. I also think it's important to note that we should hang around positive people. I remember I was dating a lady at the time, and I was very stupid. I was always complaining about her belly, her dark knuckles. So one day I met her mom, and her mom said, "Hey guy, come here. Look at me. I'm big, I'm chubby. Look at my knuckles, they're black. This is how she's going to turn out. So if you're not ready for this, just let her go." And I think at that point, I just say, you know what? Let us go our separate ways. I think it's important that women do not end up with men who do not appreciate them. Because we're different people, we're unique. There are people who love you for. In fact, I have a friend who tells me that if the woman is not on the heavy side, there's no way I'm never going to marry her. So everybody should just, make sure that they end up with the people who appreciate them.
In some cultures, big, heavier women are considered more beautiful than unheavy women. in Nigeria, has a big tummy, considered wealthy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because he's unhealthy, but he's wealthy, unhealthy.
I used to jokingly tell my wife that I married her when she was very skinny and thin, and now she's chubby. So I'm saying, you know what? I have the privilege of cheating on you in this marriage because I have a taste of both sides. So it's pretty much amazing. I don't think that anybody, like the Tama said, we should pay attention to who people are beyond their body, because we are not our bodies, really. Thank you so much for your contribution on this podcast. I've had a great time, and I'm sure that the listener and the viewer is also paying attention and learning one or two things. Dr. Amma, Karina, Mr. Boyle, See you again next time. I'm Nifemi Oguntoye. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Karina, I
Thank
hope you
you.
join us subsequently. Good to meet you.
I
Please
would
do,
love to. Good to
Karina.
meet you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you
It was
so
amazing
much.
being here.
Thank you.